Hi everybody, my name's Shay and today we're going to be talking about how to make your own holiday gifts. In this case, today we'll be talking about pyrography, which is also known as wood burning. So first you need something wooden, obviously. I use this box. It's kind of low quality, which is what the sandpaper's for, to kind of get rid of some of those rough edges, but you can use high quality woods, hardwoods, cutting boards, wooden spoons, etc. And then, like I said, in this case, sandpaper will be used to sand out those rough edges. Next, you need a pyrography pen. These are pretty cheap. I didn't get a particularly high-end one because you don't need it for what I do. It's got removable tips. You can make them finer or wider. In this case, I'm using one that's pretty decent for writing. You can just screw it on and screw it off. When you touch it to the wood, it makes a sizzling, and yeah. Next, you need pencil. I'm using a stick of graphite because I had it and it's a little faster, but you definitely don't need it. I've got my graphic there that's going to be going on the box. So I flip it over and then I kind of I scribble on the back, and that will help me transfer the image later. So just basically what I'm going to be doing is like getting a nice thick layer of graphite on the back of that. Then when I turn the paper over and apply pressure to the other side, when I say trace the letters, it's going to push that graphite layer onto whatever's beneath it, in this case the wooden box. And again, you don't need a special graphite stick to do this. You can use a pencil, whatever pencil you have. It just is going to take a little bit longer. Just want to get a nice thick layer on there so I don't end up having to redo it in a little while, because it's really annoying to try and reline up your tracing once you realize you don't have enough lead on there. So those are the things I need, and now I'm gonna sand the box a little bit to get rid of some of those rough edges. That's boring, so I'm gonna be fast forwarding it through this part of the video. So now that I'm done sanding my box, I'm ready to trace my image onto it. In this case, I picked a nice typography graphic to put on because it's going to be a tea box and my family really likes tea. I went with this statement, just Times New Roman, printed it out so it was the right font size, and voila. You can also do this with images or whatever you want, really. It just makes it easier if you could trace it on, but hey, if you like freehanding, you could even just draw it directly on the box. I would just say not to use too much graphite because that could affect the way that the wood burns. So what I'm doing now is I'm positioning it on the box, just trying to get a sense of what is centered. And once I do get it nice and centered, I'm just gonna kind of tape it down so it doesn't wiggle too much. There's nothing more annoying than having your paper move while you're tracing something and then have to figure out where you were again. And I just fast forward through that because that is kind of boring as well. So once I have it taped down, I'm ready to begin tracing. So you can use any pencil for this. If you're using a hardwood or a very fine design, I would recommend using a mechanical pencil. It doesn't matter if you use the lead or not, as long as you have the pressure on there. You could even use a toothpick if you really wanted to. For this design, I'm careful not to press too hard because the wood I'm using is a really soft wood. Again, it's a low quality box, but it didn't need to be high quality for what I'm doing. But if I were using a higher quality hardwood, like some of the cutting boards that I've designed, I would be pressing a lot harder, using a much finer point, and being a lot more careful with my design. I'm going to move these parentheses or brackets up a little bit because I don't like where the font positioned them. And so, yeah, you just trace your design and make sure that you really understand that wherever you put pressure, some graphite is going to transfer. So if you want to have like all the little serifs and frills that are in your font and you want them to be on the wood, make sure you trace them really carefully with a lot of pressure and a fine point. But if you don't really care about that and you're going to be doing more freehanding, it doesn't really matter. Just get enough of that graphite on there to give you a nice guide for what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to fast forward through the rest of this. And when you lift it up, you can see how well that transferred. You can actually see the font really well. I'm going to use my pencil to add in a few things that didn't transfer well, because it happens. But yeah, basically I have enough information there to reliably trace it with my Pyrography pen. So now I'm just going to plug in that Pyrography pen. This one needs just a few minutes to heat up. So I'll clean up my station and then we will start tracing. Now we are ready to start tracing. I cleaned up my station a little bit. I got my Pyrography pen nice and hot. Trust me, you don't want to be touching the metal on this. You will burn yourself. So the most important thing about this is having a steady hand. Wherever this pen touches, it will burn. And wherever you hold it down too long, it'll keep burning. So if you are going to do a very intricate, fine design, you might want to get some practice on some pieces you don't really care about before jumping right to it. But it is very, very easy to learn. So here, again, I'm just tracing the graphite. I'm not being too careful with this because it's a crappy piece of wood and I don't really care about how perfect these letters look because it's going to look okay in the end anyways. Keeping my hand steady, and for this one I want to get it done quickly, so I'm not going to be taking any breaks. But for the things I really do care about, I take lots of breaks. You don't want your hand to start shaking and getting fatigued, because if your pen slips at all, you're going to have a nice big black mark wherever it touches. So it's going to get a little bit smoky. It's going to smell a little bit like barbecue, which is awesome in my opinion. But if your eyes are really sensitive, you might want to consider like wearing some swim goggles or cooking goggles or something like that. But it's not really that bad. And so I am going to fast forward through the rest of this since it's all pretty much the same thing. And we'll see our finished product and how to treat it once it's done. Alright, so now that I'm done, now we're just going to treat this wood a little bit. Because this is a low quality wood, it's going to start splintering the second it gets wet, so I'm using this mineral oil. It's just common mineral oil, you can get it anywhere. So, I'm just going to pour it on the wood and I'm going to start rubbing it in with a paper towel. This is going to absorb into the wood and it's going to protect it from water damage, and it's also going to help it look nice. If you have a lot of wooden things like cutting boards, wooden spoons, cooking implements, even bookshelves and tables and desks, it's probably a good idea to rub mineral oil or some other kind of wood polish into them every once in a while to protect the wood. And that's basically all you need to do. If something is going to be coming into contact with water a lot, I would recommend using a wax to finish it. It's pretty easy. You just get a stick of beeswax and you melt it in. Like, you melt the beeswax, brush it over the top, and then use something like a hairdryer or a heat gun to melt the wax onto the surface, rub it around just like I'm doing with the oil. And that will give you a really nice seal that won't splinter at all when it comes in contact with water. But even though this is a tea box, I don't predict spilling tea on it, so I'm just going to use the oil. So another note is you don't want to oil this before you do the pyrography, because that's going to make it really, really hard to burn in a controlled way. And you also might want to stain your box. If you do stain it before you oil it. could be fun for a tea box like this to actually stain it with tea. And I have another one I'll show you when I'm done with this that I did stain with tea before I ended up finishing it. It turned out okay. Probably would have gone with a more traditional wood stain if I had to do it again. But yeah, it's your arts and crafts. You can do whatever you want. But the main message is this is a really fast, really easy DIY holiday present. Here's the other one that I made. This one, as you can see, I was a little bit more careful with the fonts. I use a finer point for the pyrography pen, but still looks pretty cool. They both look good. I'm happy with both of them, and I would not be ashamed to give them as a present. There you can see my tea inside it. And yeah, I'm gonna initiate this one now. Put some more tea in it. Surprise my husband when he comes home from work. He likes green tea a lot. So yeah, basically DIY holiday present. The equipment in and of itself, the pen, probably only costs a you could probably buy all the equipment you need for this for under $20 or $30. And then once you have that, you can make as many things as you want. So whether you want to make cutting boards or boxes or treasure chests or pretty much anything wooden, now you have the tools to customize them in a pretty cool way. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like other random DIY projects and my cat Stepan, feel free to subscribe. Thanks.